Shavua Tov. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's a very special marriage workshop, Rabbi Shafier. It's being presented by the Chazaq organization, Beth Gavriel, Amudim, UJA, and the Shmooze. If anyone didn't get a book yet, we're going to have it after the lecture in the front. The 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. That's what Rabbi Shafier is going to be presenting here tonight. I thank, of course, the shul and all the amazing rabbanim of the shul for partnering in this event. It's a place of Torah and Tefillah community. Let's give a round of applause for Beth Gavriel. We want to thank Amudim, Rabbi Benzion Shafier. There's a table in the back. Of course, learn about more of the amazing life-saving, life-changing programs of Amudim. Rabbi Benzion Shafier, if you want to raise your hand in the back over there. Everyone, please thank you for coming, and of course, learn more about Amudim. I thank, of course, the UJA and the Shmooze, Rabbi Shafier's organization, and of course the Chazaq organization, which helps put amazing programs on like tonight, shiurim and events for men, women, young, everybody, and with a big focus on public school outreach, with after-school programs, Sunday school programs, 15 different locations, inspiring hundreds of public school students to get a Jewish education. We have a special division for public school yeshiva, which has transferred over 1,400 children from public school yeshiva in the last 5-6 years. So of course, if anyone here knows of a parent, a relative who has children in public school, please let them know about Chazaq program, give them a Jewish education. And I think, of course, we're here for a marriage workshop, but of course, our hearts, our minds, our souls are with our fellow brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And I think one quick mindset to have for all of us is a rabbi. He went up recently to his shul members, and he asked them 3 questions. He said, does anybody know anybody who was murdered in the October 7th attack? And no one raised their hands. Second question he asked was, does anybody have any relatives who was taken hostage? And no one raised their hands. And the third question that he asked was, does anybody have any relatives who are in the Israeli army and right now they're going in? And only a few people raised their hands. And he said, you know what the issue is? You know what the problem is that every single person in this room should have raised their hands for every single one of these questions. If we would realize that these are not just a news headline, these are our brothers, our sisters, our relatives, then we would daven differently, we would say Tehillim differently, we would do mitzvahs differently. So that's definitely a mindset that we should all have. And one quick message I forgot to mention was Amudim. She could tell you more about it. They're having a special major campaign for their life-saving programs called Unite to Heal. It's on December 8th, 17th, and 18th. UniteToHeal.com. Of course, everyone should be involved. And without any further ado, everyone please stand for Rabbi Benzion Shafier.
Stand. Okay, Robbie, thank you. We could sit. Please. Okay, Sephardim know how to treat people with kavod. I come from an Ashkenazic shul. Come on, you know. Okay, Robbie, can you raise the volume a little? Otherwise, I have to eat the mic. Okay, first of all, thank you, and the good vach, and you can hear me, hopefully, right? Okay, what I'm going to present this evening is some of the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. I'll let you know ahead of time, it's not going to save you from reading the book. You still got to read the book. The copies will be available if you don't have one free. But I'm going to highlight at least 5 of the 10 really dumb mistakes, and hopefully we'll get a much better understanding of louder. Oh, look what that says. A great marriage isn't as tough as it seems. Robbie, we should lower the lights a little bit. Can we lower the lights a little? Now he's getting fussy. The rabbi is now getting fussy. He wants whole presentation, lights lowered. What can I tell you? But it'd be easy to see the screens. These slides are great. I love these slides. Just a little bit more, a little bit lower, a little bit lower still. Oh, that's great. I love it. I'm loving it. Great. I can see it. Beautiful. Okay. Bring the microphone closer, please. Yes. Speak louder. Right. Okay. This is the name of the presentation. A great marriage isn't as tough as it seems. So let's begin. In 1901, the divorce rate in the United States of America was 6%. The divorce rate is currently about 50%. The question is, what changed? Now, don't get me wrong, in the frum community, it's nowhere near 50%, but in the United States of America, in Western civilization, it is now 50%. What changed from 6% to 50%? That's the question. So I believe there are 4 reasons why marriages stopped succeeding, and we'll go through them very quickly. Number 1, the first reason is that we live in a world that's now everything is disposable. Disposable cups, disposable plates, disposable marriages. You get married, you try it, it doesn't work, hey, on to the next one. My wife and I were in a restaurant. It was in Manhattan, which meant all the tables were too close. We overheard two fellas sitting next to us, and one guy says, I got married much, much too late. I should have got married much younger. That way I could have got my first marriage over really quick when I was young, and my second marriage I could have started when I was younger. The problem is the other fellow didn't laugh. So this is, I believe, the first problem, that marriage is a disposable commodity. And this we're not going to solve, but it's important to understand this perspective. There's a second reason why marriages have stopped succeeded, and that second reason is because society as a whole is tuned into WIIFM. WIIFM stands for what's in it for me. What are you doing for me? What do I gain? What's in it for me? But it's been that way since you're a little kid, since the time you're a little child. The first question your parents ask, what's the best school for you? What's the best camp for you? What's the best situation for you? And that's the way it's been until now. And suddenly you get married, and now it's no longer me, it's we. And learning to adjust to that, someone else's needs are as valid as mine. Someone else's perspective is valid as mine is not so simple. There's a third reason why marriages have stopped succeeded. Third reason is because people today are so generally unwholesome and emotionally fragile. And this is a major problem because you see, marriage is an institution, but it's not a hospital. Marriage will not cure depression, OCD, anxiety, low self-esteem, poor self-image. There's only one thing that marriage will solve, and that is called being single. But nothing other than that will marriage solve. Now, these three problems we're not going to solve, we're not going to deal with them. They're societal issues, and we're not going to solve them now. But there's a fourth reason why marriages have stopped succeeded, and I think that one we can deal with. What's the fourth reason? I have now counseled hundreds and hundreds of couples, and on a regular basis, I'll say to my wife when we're finished, I'll say to her, you know something? They are a match made in heaven, living in Gehenna. They're perfectly matched, like two peas in a pod. The only problem is they don't know what it means to be married. And they're fighting and screaming and yelling, but they're perfectly aligned. They should be a perfect match, a match made in heaven, living in Gehenna. And my friends, I believe that 80% of the Gittin written in our community should not be. They should not be. And it's not like Hashem stopped knowing how to make matches. It's that people stop understanding what a marriage means. And this fourth area, a lack of understanding what a marriage needs, we're going to deal with tonight, and hopefully that we can solve. Okay, so we're going to deal with some of the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. So let's begin. Parshat Vayera opens up with Avram Avinu raising his eyes, looking on the horizon. He sees three wayfarers. To him, they're just Arabs crossing. He doesn't know that they're Malachim. He welcomes them in. He stands over them like a waiter. He prepares a meal. He prepares food, he prepares beverage, he stands over them and waits for them to eat. While they're eating, one of the Malachim say, Ayeh Sarah Ishtecha, where is Sarah your wife? Says Avram, Hinehi Bo'el, she is in the tent. Now Rashi makes an important observation. These were Malachei Asharis. Avram didn't know who they were, but they were Malachei Asharis, the highest level Malachim. Yodim Hayu, they knew exactly where Sarah Imenu was. Why did they ask that question? So that he would answer. He would say, Hinehi Ba'ol, she's in the tent. By saying that, he would recognize her tznius to a greater extent. They asked the question so he could answer, to make her more beloved in his eyes. When he would say she's in the tent, she's a modest woman, she would find more favor in his eyes by doing that. Okay, now my friends, let's think about that for a minute. The man welcomes you in, prepares food, prepares beverage, stands over you like a waiter, and you ask about his wife. The question is rude. It's not very polite. Why are they asking that? And if you'd like to understand why it's particularly a question, the Maral says, in the course of history, there never was a bond, a connection between husband and wife as it was between Avram and Sarah. You see, what's the greatest obstacle to a successful marriage? If I ask you, what's the single biggest obstacle to successful marriage? Anybody? I'm sorry? Communication? Okay, communication we're going to get to. I believe the first problem with any marriage is if I'm self-centered. If the world begins and ends in my Dalet Amos, if I'm the center of the universe, I'm a difficult person to be married to. Here we're dealing with Avram, the paradigm of chesed, giving loving kindness. Sarah Imenu, his equal. Two perfect tzaddikim. Again, says the Maral, in the course of history, there never was a connection, never a bond between husband and wife as there was between Avram and Sarah. Why did the Malachim have to ask a question that's rude to make her more beloved in his eyes? They had the near perfect marriage. It sounds rather unusual. But if this doesn't trouble you, let's follow the storyline a little bit. Sarah Imenu is in the tent, and she overhears the conversation. One of the Malachim say, next year, this time, you'll have a child. Vatischak Sarah bekirba lemor. Sarah laughs inside, saying, how could this be? Vadoni zakein, my husband is too old. Right? And Sarah laughs inside, saying, it can't be, my husband's too old. Hashem comes back to Avram and says, Lama sachaka Sarah. Why did Sarah laugh, saying that she is too old? Now, if you notice, what Sarah said, Adoni zakein, my husband is too old. Yet when Hashem said it back, Hashem said, why did Sarah laugh, saying that she's too old? Rashi points out, Shina Kasav, Hashem changed. What happened? Why? Because Allah is allowed to change for Shalom Bayis. In plain language, Hashem lied. If it could be Hashem changed the truth, why? Because you're allowed to lie for Shalom Bayis. I heard my Rebbe, the Rosh Zatzal, I learned the Chavetz Chaim, Rosh Zatzal asked the following question. When do you say you can lie for Shalom Bayis? There's going to be a fight, there's going to be a squabble, there's going to be some big deal, right? Let's say Avram Avinu heard Sarah say, my husband is too old to have a child. Do you think he would have gone to pieces? Ay, Sarah called me an old man. Avram Avinu was a giant of a man. He was, at this point, one of the wealthiest men alive. He was one of the most powerful men alive. He was also, every year of his life was another tremendous accomplishment. By the way, he also is 100 now. He has another 75 years to live. So let's say Sarah had said he's too old. Do you think he would have gone to pieces? So question number one is, why did the Malachim ask a question that seems to be rude? And question number two is, question number one is, why the angels make him more beloved? Question number two is, why did Hashem ask a question that seems to be rude? Okay, we got those questions? I don't got the slides, but you got the question. Okay, good. Here we go. Let us begin. Ladies, this one's for you. What is the leading cause of divorce today? The leading cause of divorce. Anyone? Miscommunication. Okay, leading cause of divorce? Lack of perspective. Gentlemen, leading cause of divorce today? Ego. Ego's a big one. I believe that this is not the biggest cause of divorce. If you'd ask me what is the biggest cause of divorce, and by the way, usually people say things like children, money, in-laws, religion. I believe all of them are not true. There's one single cause of divorce today, the largest by far, and that's something called fighting. Fighting. Yeah, but Rabbi, it's fighting about the children, the money, the in-laws, etc. No. It's never the issue. It's how the couple deals with the issue. It's never the children, never the money, it's always how the couple deals with it. If there is a climate of love in the relationship, if you guys are best friends, you figure out a way. My way, your way, we figure out a way. But the minute the climate of that relationship starts to wax, starts to fall apart, then suddenly everything falls apart. And this is, my friends, one of the most important things to recognize. Love and friendship, and particularly love, is the key to successful marriage. And I'll share with you how I know this to be true. 70% of successful marriages have at least one irreconcilable difference. What's an irreconcilable difference? A difference that can't be reconciled. So for instance, he has a business in Manhattan. She has severe allergies. She needs to live in San Diego. Chicago doesn't cut it for either one. That's irreconcilable, right? He wants to bring the kids up in a Hasidic way. She wants to send them to regular yeshiva. You can't send the kids to yeshiva with long curly payas on one side. Right? That's an irreconcilable difference. 70% of successful marriages have at least one, if not more, irreconcilable difference. Yet how is it possible that they're still successful? Because it's never the issue, it's the climate of the relationship. If there's love, if there's friendship in the relationship, my way, your way, we find a way. But the minute that love starts to disappear, then suddenly everything is a fight, and there's always what to fight about. John Gottman is a marriage researcher. He has studies. He can show with 94% accuracy whether a couple will be divorced in 5 years or not. And I want to explain to you how he does it. He explains he brings a couple into his room, and he videotapes everything. He puts special monitors on their wrists to monitor their heart rate, their respiration. He watches everything, and he asks them to talk about 3 topics. One topic is a neutral topic, something just, no one cares about. Another topic is something mutually pleasing, they both enjoy talking about. And the third topic is what he calls a hot topic, something that they typically argue about. He videotapes it, studies it, and with 94% accuracy can tell whether they're going to be divorced. And he explains what he looks for. He looks for one thing only: contempt. Contempt is that it's not hatred, it's not anger, it's that rolling of the eyes. Ugh. He says if he sees one sign of contempt without 5 positive signs corresponding to it, that couple is in deep trouble. That couple will end up being divorced within a short amount of time. You see, my friends, Hollywood got it 100% right. But Hollywood got it backwards. In the world of Hollywood, boy meets girl, she looked into his eyes and they fell madly, passionately in love. Right? They fall in love, you fall out of love, you fall in love, you get married, you fall out of love, you get unmarried. It's a mystery of life. We don't understand something. My friends, I'd like to share with you, Hollywood got it 100% backwards. You see, they got it right though. Love is the glue of a marriage. It's not the reason I picked this person. It's not the criteria for selection. But once you're married, if you don't work on the bond, if you don't work on the connection, if you don't keep a vibrant, powerful bond of love in your marriage, you're going to be very distant, very apart, and you're going to have a lot of trouble. But this is the point. Love doesn't happen. Love is built. And we'd like to know the answer to this Rashi. The Malachim felt, you gave us food, you gave us something, we want to give you back something. You have the near perfect marriage, 99.9% perfection. They want to make Sarah more beloved in Avram's eyes. Why? Because love is the essence of a marriage, and as great as a marriage was, the Malachim wanted to give more love, increase that love. They asked that question to make her more beloved in her eyes. And I heard my Rebbe Shiva Zatzal explain, why is it? Okay, the answer to Rashi is that the Malachim A want to increase the bond. Number 2, I heard my Rebbe Shiva Zatzal explain that if Avram heard Sarah say he's too old, he wouldn't have gone to pieces, but it made a tiny scratch, a tiny little scratch. Sarah said I'm too old. Somehow it made a tiny scratch. And gentlemen, my friends, this is the message. Number 1, love is a glue of marriage. Number 2, shalom bayis is holy. So holy that Hashem himself is willing to lie to keep shalom, even though Avram Avinu would not have gone to pieces, it would have made a big fight, but it would have made an almost imperceptible scratch. That's how important shalom bayis is. Number 1, love is the glue to marriage. Number 2, shalom bayis is holy. And Hashem will lie if it could be to keep shalom bayis. Okay, now here we go. I get the phone call. I get these phone calls only too often, and it sounds something like this. Rabbi, thank you for taking the call. Yeah, and what can I do? Well, Rabbi, it's my husband. Okay, what's the problem? Well, the problem is he's a good guy. He learns, he davens, he's with the kids, he has a good job, he's responsible. I say, it sounds pretty good. Well, what's the problem? The problem is, I don't love him. I don't love him. I say, okay, how many years are you married? 10 years? How many kids? 5 kids? So what do you do? What do you say to a woman who's married for 10 years, has 5 kids, and she says she doesn't love her husband? So I'll share with you what I usually say. I asked her the following question. I said, madam, tell me something. Last month, how many times did you and your husband go out? But go out doesn't mean to a bar mitzvah, to a wedding, or to your in-laws. How many times last month did you and your husband go out to connect, to bond, to be a couple together? The answer is, we didn't. Okay, the month before that, how many times did you go out? We didn't. The month before that, how many times did you go out? We didn't. The month before that, by about 7 or 8, I stop and I say, madam, don't you understand? You're like 2 ships in the night. I don't care how much aligned you are. I don't care how much you love your kids. I don't care how much you want a happy family. If you're not going to work on the marriage, if you're not going to spend time together, you're going to be distant and life is going to be very difficult. And this, my friends, is the first really dumb mistake that very smart couples make, not working on the marriage, forgetting that love is the glue of the marriage, but love means taking the time, spending time together, being together, and it means everything that a couple in love should be doing. The mini vacations, love notes, gifts, date nights, text during the day, everything a couple in love should be doing. Now I become unpopular. You ready? Gentlemen.
Good for you. Never our fault.
I better move to the side. It is a husband's role to romance his wife. Gentlemen, you are responsible to plan the date. You are responsible to buy the gifts, the cards, and the... Oh. Why are they clapping? You guys are doing such a great job of it already. Why are they clapping? I don't get it. I don't understand. My wife's not here, you notice. But gentlemen, do you hear what I'm saying? It is your responsibility. I love it when guys say, I told her that anytime she wants to go out, just plan the date and I'll be there. You blew it. What your wife wants to know more than anything is that you cherish her, you love her, that she's number 1. If a woman knows that she's cherished, she'll be happy, she'll be fulfilled. If she doesn't, it's going to be very, very rough. I want to share with you a letter This is an Igeris that the Stipler wrote, and I want to read it to you. The Stipler Gaon wrote this Igeris. He says, the main hope of a woman in her world is to have a husband who loves her. When she sees that this isn't so, it crushes her spirit and can be close to pikuach nefesh. Do you hear those words? What your wife wants to know, that you love her, that you cherish her. Well, she should know it because I'm working so hard for the business. That's very nice. But if you're not spending time with her, if you're not sending texts and flowers, taking her out, if you're not doing all the things a gentleman should be doing, well, guess what? She's going to become very unhappy. And here, let me make it simpler. Gentlemen, would you like to be happy?
Yes.
If you don't want to be happy, you go like this. Go, no, I don't want to be happy. Go on. Anybody want to be happy?
Yes.
Yeah. A happy wife is a happy life. I'm telling you, guys, this one is so easy. I'm going to beat the women up soon enough. Don't worry. They're not getting off the hook. But I'm telling you, guys, this is so easy and so simple. All you got to do is shower her with love, shower her with attention, and she changes. I can't. Okay, ladies, don't listen to this part. I used to run a group. I called it How to Tame Your Dragon. I had so many guys who complained, she's a witch, she flies on a broom. I said, okay, great. I did a whole session. I did about 14 sessions with these guys. I called it How to Tame Your Dragon. And I explained to them the great Yesod. If you treat her like a lady, you take her out, you spend time with her, you send her love notes, a text, you show her that you cherish her, she changes from the fire-breathing dragon into a nice little pup. Oh, but wait, ladies, don't laugh so fast because... All right, wait a minute. We're getting ladies again. Think they're getting off the hook tonight. They're not. But okay. Anyway, this is it.
Thank you for starting with the men.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be ladies first, isn't it? You know, well, all right, but okay.
Rabbi, sorry, does this count as a night out?
No. A night out, let me explain to you. If you're both looking this way, that's not a night out. You got to be looking this way. If you're looking at each other, it's a night out. If you're looking at the screen, if you're looking at a rabbi talking, that's not a night out. It's talking to each other. Okay, so this is it. You got to make your wife happy. And it means a man has to show his wife in words, deeds, and action that he cherishes me. Do you understand how big this is? Guys, I get this one's a real, it's incredible. Okay. Okay, by the way, there's one little problem here. The single biggest competitor to your marriage is going to be something you're not ready for. This one, ladies, the single biggest competitor to your marriage is going to be your children. Now, don't get me wrong, children are a big bracha, the biggest bracha you can imagine, but children demand a lot of attention, a lot of resources, and they're always there, and if you don't learn to set boundaries, if you don't learn to set a time, Tuesday night is mommy and Abba's night out, but how's my rookie going to do all her homework? How's David going to know all his math? I guarantee if Ruchi doesn't know every Ramban and Chumash, if David doesn't know all his math, they'll be fine, solid people. But you see, if the marriage starts to fray, then their basic, everything they rely on starts to come apart. You see, when children are little, you guys are 10 feet tall. You're the center of the universe. And if the marriage starts to fray and you guys start to squabble, start to fight, before you know it, the kids have a sense of nothing is guaranteed, nothing is secure. The single best investment you can make in your children's being wholesome, happy people is your shalom bayis. The single best investment in your children's success is a shalom bayis in your house, because that will guarantee that they're wholesome, happy people. If you say you love your kids, don't say I have no time to go out. If you say you love your kids, then make time to go out, makes time for everything that a couple in love should be doing. And this is the first of the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. But let's move on to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2, let me share with you 2 scenes. I'm going to share with you 2 scenes, and I'm going to ask you what the difference between them are. Here's a young man walking on this side. Right next to him is a young woman. As the young man walks, he trips. And she says, Oy vey, are you okay? Are you all right? That's scene 1. Scene 2, same couple. He's walking down the street. She's standing next to him. He trips. Kulotz, what's wrong with you? Can't even walk down the street? What's the difference between scene 1 and scene 2?
Marriage.
Scene 1, they're chassan and kala. Scene 2, they're married already 3 years. Yep, and this is mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is forgetting that respect comes first. You see, it's love and respect. You see, you could love your spouse. You could really be dedicated to your spouse, but if you're not treating them with respect, it's going to be very difficult for them to love you. And it's love and respect means working on it. I'll share you what I mean. Let's go back to another John Gottman study. John Gottman, when he brings those couples into his lab, he also does another little experiment. When they're both sitting facing each other, when they're finished speaking, he asks the wife to leave and brings in a woman that the husband never met before and asks them to have a conversation. Then he brings the He brings the wife back in, asks the husband to leave, and then brings a strange man in. And basically he's looking to see how we talk to our spouse versus the way we talk to strangers. And here's what he finds. Couple after couple, whether newly married or married many, many years, invariably we are more polite to strangers than we are to our own spouse. We argue less with strangers than we do with our own spouse. And even worse, if we ever do argue with a stranger, we'll be far more quick to accept their position than we would our own spouses. And my friends, what that means is you have to really work on the respect. I've heard couples sometimes that make my hair say things, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, that's stupid, that's rocky, that's ridiculous. Do you guys like each other? If you're not, you see, you can't be formal in your marriage, you gotta be comfortable, but you also have to remember that the person you're speaking to is the most important person in your life. By the way, as an aside, when my wife calls my name, I run. We're married 36 years now, coming up to 37. I love my wife, we're happily married. She's not here to argue with that fact. Yeah, you notice? No, she even says that she sometimes shows up and she'll actually admit. Okay, but anyway, since our first kid, when my wife calls my name, I run. Maybe you think she's a tyrant, maybe she's a witch. Why do I run? Because I want my children to see that when mommy calls Abba, even Abba comes running, because I want my kids to respect their mother. Do you know what I'm saying? I want my kids to see that mommy is a person to be respected. And the way you treat your spouse, whether it's a wife to a husband or husband to wife, will tell your children in bigger letters than anything else you can imagine who that person is. Are they worthy of respect? You see, my friends, you create the culture of your family. You create the culture of your family, you create the attitudes, and if you're going to treat your spouse with disrespect, what your kids are going to learn is the worst lesson imaginable, and that is the spouse is not worthy to respect. And this is mistake number 2. So mistake number 1 is not working on the love in the marriage. Love is central, key. Mistake number 2 is not working on the respect. But let's move on to mistake number 3. To understand mistake number 3, let me share with you the background. I believe there are 3 pillars to a successful marriage. The first pillar is commitment. Commitment comes from the understanding that Hashem doesn't make mistakes. Hashem found the perfect one for you. It may not fit perfectly now. It may take some growth on your part. It may take some growing up and some changing, but Hashem knows very well what He's doing. And the first pillar of a successful marriage is commitment that comes from knowing that Hashem found the perfect match for you. The second pillar of a successful marriage is love. That's everything that a couple in love should be doing and everything that a vibrant bond of love does. However, here's the problem. There are many couples who are very committed to the marriage. They also love each other, but they can't seem to learn to live together. And this is the third pillar of a successful marriage, learning to live together. And this is the biggest one, because my friends, this is the real hard one. It's very easy to be committed to the marriage. It's even easy to be in love if you do the things you need to. But learning to live together is not so simple, and I'll share with you why. Elizabeth Newton earned a PhD from Stanford University for a very clever experiment. She created 2 groups. One she called the tappers, and she other called the listeners. The tappers' job it was to tap out a song, and the listener was supposed to guess the song. And she made a list of 50 very well-known songs, Happy Birthday, Star Spangled Banner, etc. And she asked the tappers to tap out the song, and she asked the listeners to guess the song. Now here's the interesting part. You can watch the videotapes. The tap will be tapping it, the listener just doesn't get it. Here's the interesting part. Only 2.5% of the time did the listener ever guess it correctly. And you probably can understand why. Imagine I tap out a song. I don't know if that's Happy Birthday, Star Spangled Banner on TikTok. I can't tell what it is, right? So it's pretty logical why only 2.5% of the time will the listeners guess it correctly. But here's what she did. She asked the tappers to guess what are the odds that the listener is going to guess. Almost everyone said at least 50-50. And you could see the tapper as they're tapping the song and looking at guess. How can you not get it? It's so obvious. It's Happy Birthday. How can you not get it? But you know what she earned a PhD for? The reason behind it. You see, when I tap out the song, I can't help but play it in my own mind. And when I play it in my own mind, it's so obvious, it's so clear. How can you not get it? How can you be so daft? And my friends, this is the third of the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make, assuming that my experience defines reality. If I think something, obviously you think that. If I feel a certain way, obviously you feel a certain way. And more than anything, if I know something, it's obvious and proper and clear that you know it as well. And if you're wondering what I mean, let me share with you 2 examples, as I say, in real life. The first one is a little bit interesting. It's not such a big deal, but it's an interesting one to me. Today is Motzei Shabbos. Every Shabbos from, I don't know how many, for decades now, I get up very early. I learn the house is quiet. It's a machaya. And later on in the morning, I'll bring my wife a coffee in bed. She likes to have a coffee. And to this day, as I'm preparing my wife's coffee, I reach for the creamer and I stop. See, everyone knows that coffee tastes better with full-fat milk at least, or creamer, right? And as I'm reaching for the creamer, I have to stop. Why? Because my wife likes her coffee with skim milk. Oh, but I want to give you the good one, what tastes really good. I want to give you the full 4% fat at least. Come on, what? Do you understand what I'm saying? I know what tastes good, and I want to give my wife the best cup of coffee. The only problem is she doesn't like her coffee that way. And understanding that my experience is the way I experience things, but that doesn't mean my spouse experiences life the same way, is a huge, huge part of any successful relationship, but especially in marriage. But it's a very small example. I want to share with you a much bigger example. Here we go. A fellow's married 6 months. He's in Kollel. He's learning Kollel. He comes home at 6:30 at night. As he's about to put the keys in the apartment door, he says to himself, Baruch Hashem, I married such an intelligent woman, not one of these flighty dames, not one of these emotional wrecks. Chazdei Hashem. He opens the door of his apartment, walks in, and sees his wife up on the chair. What is it? What is it? What dear? What? Over there. What? A cockroach. What? A cockroach. Huh? Huh? Do something, please. You can come down now. Okay, listen, he doesn't say anything, flighty dame, emotional wreck. He doesn't say anything about it. Okay, 2 weeks later, he's in Kollel. He's a masmid. He doesn't even take a phone into the base manager with him. A friend of his comes over the phone and says, David, your wife's on the phone. Pick up the phone. What is it? What is it, Shir? David, what? Please come home. Why? What's the matter? What's the matter? There are 2 of them. Please come home, please. I don't believe it. She wants me to leave the base manager. Stop learning to kill 2 stupid bugs. Steam coming out of his ear, gets in his car, drives home, puts his key in the apartment door, opens the door, there she is. Where are they? Turns around, walks out the door. I hope you're satisfied. Ladies and gentlemen, who was right? Who was right?
Neither one of them.
Who was right? Listen, on the one hand, she's terrified. On the other hand, you want me to stop learning, stop something important, come home, just kills 2 stupid bugs? Who was right? Who was right is an excellent question to ask in a court of law, maybe a divorce court. But who was right is a terrible question to ask in a marriage. A far more productive, far more helpful question would be, what were they each experiencing? So let me share with you, I don't know why this is, but girls tend to be afraid of bugs. At Baruch Hashem, I have 4 daughters and 2 boys. Now, I don't know why, but whenever the girls had a bug in the room, they called their baby brother just have to make sure it didn't eat the bug. But they were terrified of bugs and the boys aren't. Why that is, I can't tell you why, but that's certainly the way it is in my house. But here's the reality. She, up on that chair, was terrified. The mistake that he made was he judged her based on his experience. His experience is bugs are not scary. If you would like to know the corollary story, if you want to know what it was really like, imagine we change the scene a little bit. Imagine it's he home alone in the apartment, but instead of 2 cockroaches, there were 2 German shepherds. Would he be up on the chair? He'd be out the fire escape down the block because German shepherds are very scary. That's your experience, but your experience doesn't define reality. That's the way you experience things. And learning that the way I experience things doesn't mean that's the way my spouse experiences things is a very, very huge part of life, a huge part of understanding what life is about. Terror, that's what she's experiencing, right? By the way, here's the German Shepherd one. See that? But this is the punchline. My experience doesn't define reality. That's, by the way, how many times have you rolled, ladies, how many times have you rolled your eyes at your husband? Why is he acting like such a creep, such a cruel, cold, callous creep? Why is he acting that way? What's the answer? Not that he's a cold, callous creep. No, he's a guy. Ladies, gentlemen, you ever have a sense that she's a nervous wreck or she's emotional? What's the matter with her? What's her problem? You know what her problem is? That's the way she's wired. And understanding that my spouse is different than I am. Understanding that my spouse has a different experience. Understanding that my spouse has different thoughts, different feelings, and understanding that they're valid because that's the way they feel is a huge part of a successful marriage. Now, Would you like to deal with this problem in a serious way? Here we go. What are the two most important words in your marriage? Let's open this up to the floor. Two most important words in your marriage. Let's start with the gentleman. Gentlemen, two most important words in your marriage are?
Yes, dear.
I love it. I love it. Yes, dear. Or how high should I jump? Yeah, no. Okay, that's good. Yes, dear is a good one. Okay, ladies, what are the two most important words in your marriage? I love you. I love you is not two. It's important. They're very important. Good words. What? I'm sorry. I'm sorry are very good words. By the way, what are the two hardest words to say? No, I'm sorry is not so hard. I was I know I was wrong. She knows I was wrong. I know she knows it, but I can't say the word I was wrong. I can say I'm sorry. I feel bad, but I was okay. But even that's not the most important words in your marriage. Would you like to know what the two most important words are? Not please, not thank you, not okay. I'll say to you what they are. Every scientific discovery was preceded by an expression. Almost every scientific discovery was discovered by an expression, and the expression is not eureka. The expression was, that's strange. That's strange, meaning a guy took chemical X to chemical Y, mixed it, expected Z, and got something altogether different. He begins looking into it and he discovers a different type of rubber, a different type of penicillin was discovered that way. Almost every discovery in science was discovered by the words, that's strange, and then the person digs in to understand things better. And my friends, the scientific curiosity is the key here. Would you like to be happily married? This is one of the keys to be happily married. The next time your wife does something that's absolutely inexplicable, or better yet, ladies, the next time your husband acts like a cruel, cold, callous creep, I want you to ask yourself the following question. You ready for this? Ladies, listen carefully. Is he a nice guy? Is he a nice guy? Answer to yourself. I hope the answer is yes. Most women will say, yeah, he's a nice guy. So here's the question. If he's a nice guy, why would he act so cruel, cold, and callous? And the answer is, what is the answer?
It's not typical.
It's not what?
It's not typical. He's usually okay. He's usually good. But that's strange.
That's strange. When I say that's strange, why would she act that? Why would he act that? When you say that's strange, you're able to climb into the inner world of your spouse. You're able to understand the world from their perspective, and you're able to actually deal with things in a mature, rational way, instead of reaching conclusions like, she's a witch, he's a creep, whatever. Instead, if you climb in, you say the words, that's strange, you step back and say, but one second, I want to be very clear here. You say the words to yourself. Okay, you got to say this to yourself. That's strange. And ask yourself, why, if he's a nice guy, why would he act that way? If she's normally so balanced, why is she acting that way? When you step back and say that's strange to yourself, you find that you might actually understand your spouse. And that is, you might understand the inner world. Okay, so we got 3 mistakes. Number 1 is what? Love. Not working on the love in the marriage. Number 2 is what? Respect. Not working on respect. Number 3 is? That's strange. Meaning assuming my experience defines reality. You know what I mean by that? The way I experience things is the way they are. That's obvious, and obviously everybody feels the same way I do. Okay, that's mistake number 3. Let's move on to mistake number 4. Okay, yeah, well, this one is for the ladies. Ladies, what is the most important ingredient in a successful relationship?
Respect.
Respect? Yeah, okay.
Communication.
Communication, thank you. Communication. Okay, gentlemen, what is the most important ingredient in a successful relationship? So let me share with you something very interesting. I've asked this to thousands of people, and what I found is something, I only discovered this after I read this study. Ted Houston is a psychologist at the University of Texas. He studied 264 couples in depth, and he asked them this question: what is the single most important issue for the satisfaction relationship? And here's what he found. Almost all the women said communication. Almost none of the men said communication. Oh, that's very interesting. And in fact, what's even more interesting is probably the most common complaint that marriage therapists hear from women is, we never talk. But the most common complaint that marriage therapists hear from men is, all we do is talk, 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 right? Now, somebody's got it backwards. Either we're always talking or never talking, but what, right? So what's pshat? Anybody know, right? You hear the kasha? Okay, would you like to know the answer to this question? All you got to do is go to a kiddush. Go to a kiddush Shabbos morning and listen to the men speaking and listen to the women speaking. And you're going to hear something very different. Listen to women speaking, you're going to hear something like this. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ooh. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh. Great talking to you. Okay, let's go over to the men's side. Men's side sounds like this. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Great talking to you. Okay. Why is it that women make all those sounds, the oohs, the ahs, the ooh, ah? You need a lexicon just to interpret what this, I don't even know the language. Why do they do that?
It shows that you're listening.
Oh, because women talk to communicate, to bond, to connect. Why do men talk? Men talk to share ideas, concepts. One second, here we go. I used to face this. It took me 20 years. My mother passed away 26, 27 years ago now. I realized only after 10 years of marriage, maybe more, that I owed her a huge, huge apology. Why? Every Thursday night I'd call home and I would get that question that every yeshiva bacha fears: what's new? We learned the new Tosasma, we learned the Marshal, I got stuck on the Ksos. What's new? I don't know what's new. I'm learning them. What's new? It took me 20 years to finally figure out what she was asking. Her son left home, went to yeshiva, and she wanted to be part of his world. She wanted to be in my life. She wanted to know what I was involved in because she wanted to share, she wanted to connect. And this is the great secret. Men and women talk for very different reasons. Here we go. Deborah Tannen is a professor of linguistics at Georgetown University. She wrote a number of very important books. One is You Just Don't Understand. And she studies why women talk and why men talk. And here's what she writes. Why do women talk? They talk to create the relationship. That means they talk to share, to bond, to connect. And therefore what they talk about is, what do they talk about? All the things that women talk about. People, occurrences, what happened, what she said, what he said, etc. Good. Why do men talk? Men talk for a very different reason. The reason why men talk is because they want to communicate ideas or concepts, whatever it may be. But that's the point. What men talk about are very different than what women talk about. So gentlemen, we're coming back to you again. I'm going to beat the women up, I promise. I'm going to get to them also, but back to you. Gentlemen, one more time. Would you like to be happy?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Say no. Go no like this. No and yes. No. Would you like to be happy?
Yes.
Let me repeat this one thing. If you would like to be happy, a happy wife is a happy life. But therefore, you got to know how to talk to your wife. You see, mistake number 4 is not understanding that communication means something very different to a woman than it does to a man. Guys are very happily married. On a very regular basis, I get a guy who's happily married. In fact, here's what happens all the time. I get a couple and I'll say to them, how's the marriage? Good, Baruch Hashem. I ask, how's the marriage? It's terrible, it's horrible. Wait, you guys married to each other? Like, what's the deal? Because there's his marriage and her marriage. And if you don't learn to talk to your wife, if you don't learn to listen to your wife, if you don't learn to communicate in her world, in her language, it's going to be very difficult for her to love you. And you have to recognize that men and women are different. I know the world at large would like us to think they're the same, but men and women are vastly, incredibly, terribly different in every way, shape, or form. And if you don't understand that you need to listen to your wife, you need to talk to your wife, you're going to be very unhappy married. So here we go. A couple of tips for talking. Number 1, gentlemen, what is the first tip for talking? Listen. Listen. Do you know, here's a study. This is amazing. The average person listens for how long before they interrupt? 17 seconds. 17 seconds, and then boom, 17 seconds. Try to present a concept, an idea in 17 seconds. I'm a rabbi. They cut me down to 18 minutes Shabbos morning. Today I went for 26. Nobody's throwing me out. But try in 17 seconds to get a concept over. You can't. So what it means is you're not listening. So the first tip is to learn to listen. Listen to understand. Tip number 2, this is a big one, guys. This one I learned the hard way. Here we go. I was a high school Rebbe for about 10 years, and I made this very interesting discovery. Probably the biggest part of a high school Rebbe's job is to teach you guys about life. You got to teach them learning, but you got to teach them about life. I felt that was my biggest responsibility. Anyway, guys regularly would talk to me about problems, issues. They'd come to me for advice. And guys seemed to be very happy with the advice I gave them. Guys would come to me 20 years later, Rabbi Shafier, the advice you gave me 20 years ago, I still use today. So I thought I was able to, give decent advice to the guys. Okay, but an odd thing would happen. As soon as I'd come home and my wife asked me for advice, she was never happy with my solutions. It was like my IQ dropped 80 points as soon as I crossed the threshold, right? It took me 10 years of marriage to figure it out. Ladies, what's the answer? She wasn't looking for my advice. She wanted to share. She wasn't looking for me to solve a problem. She wanted to communicate. She wanted to share what she was experiencing. Gentlemen, this is tip number 2. Tip number 2 is she's not asking for advice. Don't fix a problem, just listen. How to listen so your wife talks? You have to listen, and how to talk to your wife. You guys know what I'm talking about? No? Nobody knows what I'm talking about, right? Here's a good one. Here's a good one. She goes on and on and on. She says, "You're not even listening." And he says over word for word exactly what she said. And she says, "That just proves you're not listening to me, you see?" Anyone experience that? No? Okay, no. Oh, good. This morning. Okay. Anyway, why is that? Because again, it's the connection, it's communication. Now, guys, I can't tell you to learn the whole lexicon. I don't know the language. But you got to listen. You have to also share. The Chazon Ish says you have to tell your wife where you're going, where you're coming. You have to share your word with her because that's what matters to her. Okay, we've beat up the guys a lot this evening. Let's move on to the women. What? It's all right? No, it really isn't. We're okay with it? Okay, but this is mistake number 4, forgetting that talk means something different to men than women. Let's move on to mistake number 5. Here we go. And this one is to the ladies. Watch this one. It is my firm belief that every kala, as she walks down the chuppah, has in her mind a 10-point home improvement policy. And it's that guy under the chuppah who's going to be the recipient of that home improvement policy. First of all, the ties have got to go, and the coming late, and the sloppiness, and those dumb jokes, forget about it. Now, we'll give her credit. She behaves herself the first week of the Shev Brachas, and even the week after that, but shortly thereafter, she begins her home improvement policy. You know, Moshe, your desk is such a mess. You'd be much more efficient if you would just clean it up. And he doesn't get all warm and fuzzy. I guess he doesn't understand what I'm saying. Moshe, I mean, like, you mess the desk. Your whole life is a mess. If you'd be neater, you'd be much more efficient. And he doesn't just warm up with warm feelings. I guess he doesn't understand. Moshe, I mean, like, how do you even find yourself in the mess? And he doesn't laugh. Okay, so I'll let you in on the great secret. While most women have a 10-point home improvement policy, it is the most disastrous thing you can do in your marriage. And I'll share with you what I mean. I get the phone call, again, here it happens, it's only too common, but this is basically how it sounds. "Rabbi, you gotta help me." "What's the problem?" "It's my husband." "What's the problem?" "The problem is, he's 40 years old, and he leaves his socks on the floor. And I ask him, I beg him to pick his, and he won't do it. I said, "Madam, what do you mean?" I screamed, I yelled at him, I said, "Madam, tell me, have you ever said it to him before?" "Yeah, 10,000 times. I tell him to pick up his socks, and he still leaves the socks on the floor. What's wrong with the guy?" Okay. So I said, "Madam, I want to tell you a story." I was speaking at a Shalom Bayis seminar, and a doctor comes over me, and he says, "Rabbi, you got to help me. I'm a physician, I work in the emergency room, and I'm always around these young, thin, pretty nurses. I try not to look. Here's the problem. My wife put on 40 pounds. She had her first kid, she put on some weight. She didn't lose that weight. She had her second kid, she put on some more weight. She didn't lose that weight. She had her third kid. She's now 40 pounds overweight. And I offered her everything. I offered a nutritionist. I offered an exercise class. I offered a private trainer to come to the house. She won't do it. "Rabbi, you got to help me. What could I do to change her? How could I get her to finally lose the weight?" I looked at him and I said, "Young man, you have a choice to make. You either embrace her as she is or you suffer." I don't know of a woman who looks in the mirror and says, 40 pounds overweight. Geschmack, that's just what I always wanted to be. So why doesn't she lose weight? You offered a nutritionist, you offered an exercise class, you offered a private trainer. Why doesn't she do it? I'll let you know why she didn't do it, because change is not so simple. 3 kids right now might be just a little bit too much on her plate, but for whatever reason, I guarantee she's very motivated to do it, but it's not going to happen now. You either embrace her as she is or you suffer. I said to this woman with the socks on the floor, "Tell me something. Is your husband a nice guy?" "Yes." "Is he responsible?" "Yes." "And does he take care of things around the house?" "Yes." "So why does he leave his socks on the floor?" "I know, that's exactly what I'm asking. Why did he do it?" I said, "Madam, would you like to know why?" "Because he's a human being. All of us human beings have strengths, talents, and we all have deficits. Guess what? This is your husband's deficit. And you're either going to embrace him as he is or you're going to suffer." Now, this socks on the floor became a part of it became a mantra. I began saying it over and over and over and over, and I knew I said it a few too many times when I was speaking in Chicago. And afterwards, a woman raised her hand and says, "Rabbi Shafier, do you remember you were here 2 years ago?" I said, "I do." She said, "Do you remember what you spoke about?" I said, "I don't." She said, "You spoke about the socks on the floor, and it changed my marriage." I asked her, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, in my case, it wasn't socks on the floor, but it was my husband's jacket. Sunday night, he'd be wearing a suit. He'd leave that jacket on the dining room chair. Monday night, he'd be wearing another suit. He'd wear that, leave that jacket on the dining room chair. Tuesday night, another suit, that jacket on the dining room chair. By Thursday night, his entire wardrobe was in the dining room." I said, "What used to happen?" "I used to scream, I used to yell." Now what happens? Well, you told the socks on the floor story, so now Sunday night, he puts his jacket on the chair, I take it upstairs. Monday night, he puts the jacket on, I take it upstairs. I asked, how's your Shalom Bayis now? She said, it's beautiful. I asked the women in that class to stand up and cheer. Because do you understand why What? Because that's his nature. He has strengths, he has talents, he has abilities, and guess what? That's not his strength. And my friends, I got to tell you, we all try to do it. We all try to change our spouse, and by the way, almost invariably, it's my strength and my spouse's weakness that I feel I must change in her. Why? Because it's so obvious, it's so easy for me. Well, by the way, you ever notice? Because it's so easy for me, why doesn't he just change? Why doesn't she just change? I once had a guy, the most interesting guy. He said to me, I cannot respect my wife. She's not into health food. She's not into exercise. She gives the kids junk. I cannot respect her. I said, that's very interesting. I happen to know this guy. He's the most disciplined human being I ever met in my life. He gets up 5 o'clock in the morning and jumps into a freezing cold shower just to master himself, works out for 45 minutes, plans his day, then goes to daven. The most disciplined human being I ever met in my life. I said, you're being unfair. What comes very natural to you is very difficult for your spouse. Don't judge your spouse by your world. And don't try to change your spouse to be you. She's not you. And understanding that we're different, understanding that my spouse has deficits. By the way, anybody want to improve their life? Forget your marriage. Let's talk about life. Anybody want to improve their life? There's another question. Yes? Yes or no? I have an exercise that guarantee will improve your life. Guaranteed. You ready for this? Here we go. When you go home this evening, make sure no one's around when you do this. When you go home this evening, I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to point at that person looking back at you and say these words. I am a difficult person to live with. I am a difficult person to live with. I am, what do you mean I? No, my husband, my spouse, no, I. We all got quirks, idiosyncrasies, I come later, come on time. We all got stuff. But you see, you know why I'm so intolerant about my spouse? Because my stuff, that's whatever. I once had a woman, this is amazing. I once had a woman who was going on and on about husband this, husband that, husband this, husband that. And it didn't take me too long to realize she's a pretty difficult person. So I said to Madam, I hear you have a lot of complaints about your husband, I understand, but could it be there's some things that you do that might annoy your husband a little bit? She thinks for a minute, she says, yeah, but me, I got to live with him, I could change. Oh, thank you very much, thank you very much. So, my friends, this is the big yesod. You ain't going to change your spouse. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you're working, no matter how you try, you're not going to change it. Now, why is this one for the ladies? Because most guys, when I tell them again and again and again, about 20,000 times or so, they finally get it and they stop trying to change their spouse. I've not yet succeeded with one woman. Not once, not once. How do I know it's such an endemic problem? Women, watch this one. Here we go. Embrace her, she is a sufferer. But here we go. I'll explain to you how I know this. Watch this. I was once giving a 5-part Shalom Bayis series in Brooklyn. And because it was a very large audience, instead of asking questions, people would write their questions on cards after, and they'd hand the cards up, I'd read the question and answer. Okay, so I did my whole routine about socks on the floor, don't change your spouse, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, the very first card that I get from a woman reads like this. What if I try to change him by being nice? No, don't do it. It's not going to work. It's going to make him angry. So don't do it. Okay, the next card I get is, okay, what if I try to change him with a sense of humor? I say, no, don't do it. It's going to wreck the marriage. It's going to ruin the relationship. Don't do it. It's not going to work. Don't do it. The third question, this is not joke. You watch the video tip. The third question I get is, what if I try to do it with positive reinforcement? No, it's not going to work. It's going to get him angry. It's going to get him upset. It's going to wreck the relationship. It's not going to work. The fourth, and this is the best one. What if I try, you ready for this? Consequences. Oh, that's going to go real well. Moshe, you're not getting lunch tomorrow unless you pick your socks up. Oh, I think that would be real good for your marriage. Okay, so let me make it clear. Don't change your spouse. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? The reason it doesn't work is because it's your spouse. That's their nature. That's it. Listen, I'm not talking, we all have to work on things. We all have to be careful about our spouse's feelings and needs. I'm talking about a nature, a temperament, something that's natural to them. We all try to change it. It doesn't work. And that is one of the most difficult parts of a successful marriage, not changing your husband. Okay, quick recap. Love is the glue of marriage. Love doesn't happen, love is built. The first really dumb mistake is what? Love. Not working on love in marriage. Second really dumb mistake is? Oh, wait, I forgot one very important slide. Gentlemen, husband's role is to romance his wife. That's a biggie. Okay, and that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is what? Not working on respect in the marriage. Forgetting that respect comes first. There are how many pillars to a successful marriage? Three. What are they? Commitment, love, and learning to live together. And what's the most difficult problem with learning to live together? It's mistake number 3. That's assuming my experience defines reality. The way I think is the way my spouse thinks. The way I value things, the way my spouse values things. If I like my coffee with creamer, obviously my spouse likes it that way. If I'm not afraid of bugs, she's not afraid of bugs, etc. Judging my spouse by my experience. And mistake number 4 is what? Ooh, this is a good one. Forgetting that talk means something different to a woman than it does to a man. And that is mistake number 4, right? Forgetting that talk means something different to a woman. Mistake number 5 is what? Trying to change your spouse. Okay, would you like to have a happy marriage? It is simple as pie. Ready? Gentlemen, if you'd like to have a happy marriage, it's very simple. Treat her like a queen, she'll treat you like a king. Treat her like a servant, she'll treat you like a slave. Ladies, would you like to have a successful marriage? Here's the rule. Treat him like a king. He'll treat you like a queen. Treat him like a slave. Well, I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen then. Okay, so don't do it. But my friends, this is the point. When you understand the relationship, when you understand that you're different than your spouse, when you understand that your spouse has needs and they're valid and they're real, you begin to work on it. More than anything, love is a glue of marriage. Husband's job is to romance his wife. And let me close with one last story. My Rebbe, the Rishiva Zatzal, for many years was ill. The Rebbetzin was younger than him, and everyone knew what was going to happen. The Rishiva Zatzal would pass away, and the Rebbetzin would be left in Almana. But that wasn't quite what happened. The Rebbetzin took ill, and within a short time she passed away, and the Rishiva got up to say a hesped, a eulogy for his wife. And we were all there as Talmidim in the yeshiva, and the Rishiva got up and said, everything we did together. We built the yeshiva together. We built the Talmidim together. Everything we did together. I didn't have to worry about anything. She worried about me more than I worried about me. She worried about my medicine more than I worried. Everything we did together. He must have said that expression 10, maybe 14 times. And then he said these words. I said a hesped. I said a eulogy for my father. I said a hesped for my mother. I cannot say a hesped for my wife. Saying a hesped for my wife is like saying a hesped for myself. I can't do it. And he sat down. And with those words, he defined a Torah marriage. One unit, bonded. It takes a lot of work to get there, but that's it. One unit, bonded, connected. When you do the work, Hashem helps. Please take home a copy of the book. And I got one more thing I want to share with you. If you can't read, anyone under 30 in this audience? Not too many people under 30. If you know anybody under 30, if you know, people under 30 cannot read. Physically, or I don't know what, they cannot read. How do I know that's true? That book that's out, right, that you have a copy of. So I can't, on a regular basis, I hear people, Rabbi Shafier, great book. What page are you up to? Page 30. How long have you had it? 3 months. Oh. I had a guy say to me, he's up to page 12. Now there's a table of contents, it starts on page 10. How long have you had the book? Okay, I realize that anyone under 30 doesn't read. Even people over 30 don't read. So I decided I'm doing battle. So I came up with what I call a video book. What's a video book? A video book is exactly that. It's a video book. It's a book. Yeah, you'll see what it is. I don't know if you can see it, but wait.
This is the tale of Shana and Benzi Cohn. Shana and
Watch this. Check this out.
All-American couple, both bright, talented, and successful. Both brought up in good homes.
Isn't that great?
Both confident and goal-oriented, and both a bit surprised with what marriage has brought them. Here's Shana's version.
I love the music.
Benzi was exhilarating. He was full of energy, always moving. He gave me a sense of excitement and adventure. But after 3 years of marriage, his ADHD is driving me crazy. He's always late, he never puts things away, and he's constantly forgetting things. He'd forget the baby at the store if I didn't remind him. Why can't he just get it together? Benzi has his own take. When we were going out, I felt like her knight in shining armor. She would get nervous and I would step in to smooth things over. If something happened between her and one of her friends, I would calm her down. I felt noble and gallant, rescuing damsel in distress. But now I feel like her anxiety is over the top.
Now here's the punchline. Watch this.
High drama, and she's the queen. Why can't she just calm down? Shane and Benzi spend the next 20 years trying to change each other, but neither of them are successful.
Get it? Okay, got the joke? Sorry. But anyway, the reason I mentioned it, I have copies here. Normally it's $50. I'm selling it $25 to anyone who's interested in the video book. If you're over 30, you could also buy it. But because even if you're over 30, probably the video works better than many people. I'm sorry?
To show ID?
You have to show. No, you don't have to show ID. Gray hair helps though. What? On Shabbat you cannot watch the video book. No, you can read but you should. By the way, the book is good. I like the book. It's more comprehensive than the video book. The video book's more fun, especially you get to watch it together. Does this count as a date watching it together? Half a day. Again, a date means this way, not this way.
You're still watching in front of you.
Right, you still watch, so it doesn't. And especially when you go like this way. You see, the rabbi talking about you. You see. I had one woman who I send her home with a video book, and she says, the video, it's terrible. It's gaslighting him. He's making him look like he's all right and I'm all wrong. I said, I see what you mean. I see. Okay, anyway, so please feel free to come over if you want a copy. If you haven't got a book, the books should be outside, I hope. Robbie got a book. I want to thank you all for attending, and I want to thank Chazaq. The what?
You didn't mention the woman.
Did they?
Here, like,
Oh, don't change your husband. Do you ever find your wife tries to change? That's.
you get better examples.
We're perfect, excuse you.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Is your wife here? Yes. You don't have to raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. I once had that, by the way. I was once doing a Shalom Bayis thing in a Hasidic place, and it was a large crowd. And it was a hotel, and my wife, I asked her never to come because it's not uncomfortable, Anyway, about 45 minutes into the routine, I see her in the third row. I stop. I go, what? What? Now, you know what it's like to review 45 minutes of material in your mind and figure out whether you're sleeping in the bedroom or in the couch in the lobby that night, Anyway, yeah, so if your wife is here, okay. Good. No, we beat the ladies up, didn't we, a little bit? Yeah, don't change your husband, right? Gentlemen, take your wife out, romance her. Ladies, don't change your husband. Everybody's great. Okay, let it take.